Howdy y'all, me and Jake here at the general store with a table talk. And today we're going to talk about what, Jake?
Is your guitar buzzing or are you just playing it wrong?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Because we hear from a lot of folks that that have never bought an instrument from our store, they just end up calling us because we make videos like this and we seem accessible, and we are accessible, sometimes to a fault. And they have an instrument that's buzzing and they're worried about, is the instrument going to implode on them, or maybe they're upset because they've bought it somewhere and it has a buzz in it. And we walk them through some different things to think about, right? To see, indeed, it might be a setup issue from the place that they bought it. It might be a structural issue from the factory, or it could be something else. Yeah. So we just wanted to make this video to maybe help you if you're experiencing a buzz, particularly with guitar. Think about maybe why it is and what you can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically there is a line to be drawn between an objective mechanical buzz that is at fault with the instrument setup and a subjective playing approach which might lend to a little buzzing here or there, right? Yeah. So those are two different things. There is some subjectivity to how you play an instrument. You've probably often heard Tony Rice, one of the greatest players, and he played that old guitar of his with beautiful, clear, fat tone. And if you didn't have a technique like Tony's and someone else got it, it'd buzz like crazy the way they played it, right? So I think more just talking about what in your playing that may be subjective that would lend to a buzz, and is that actually something you need to take into account when maybe if you buy a new instrument, like just knowing like how I approach it. If I'm heavy-handed and I'm going to make it buzz more, that's something you would want to tell the setup guy, because there are angles you can work to where it's still easy to play, but you're going to avoid some of those issues. So
we may get into a bit about how you can alleviate some of the buzzes with easy setup adjustments that you can do at home.
Sure, that as well. And probably one of the most valuable parts of that, and the least easy to take from the person that may be asking the question, is let's examine your technique a little bit, right? Like how are you playing that? And is it really buzzing, or are you just doing something in kind of a unorthodox way that isn't practical that's making it buzz?
Right.
So
and it's important to keep in mind that instruments change throughout the year. I've got instruments in my stable that have buzzes for part of the year. And I'm reminded I'll grab my Martin D18 off the wall and play it in the wintertime, and there's the buzz. I know that I need a quarter truss rod turn to get it in winter shape.
Or some people they'll have a winter saddle and a summer saddle.
Yeah.
They'll drop one in during a string change whenever the season's
That can be confusing for people, and they're like, I swear this thing was buzzing last time I picked it up. Or vice versa. This thing played great 6 weeks ago when I put it in the case. What's happened to it? Did somebody drop it? It's like, man, there's a lot of factors out there. So let's talk about that first. It's environmental factors. Just really quick overview and how it can affect the guitar and make a perfectly fine non-buzzing guitar one day start buzzing.
Yeah, so whenever it would go from non-buzzing to buzzing, the issue is typically that it got dry. I mean, these are made of wood. Wood is hygroscopic. It'll absorb moisture from the atmosphere, and it will release moisture into the atmosphere if the atmosphere is dry enough that it leaches it out, right? And so when it gets dry, when a guitar gets dry, the top, even if you can't see that there's any visual problems, the first thing you'll start to notice is maybe a little bit of string buzz like you're talking about. And what's happening is the top is it'll sink just ever so slightly. When that wood shrinks, that top will go down. That's causing your strings to sit slightly lower than they were before. And it's causing a fret clearance issue. Now, if you let it go too far, sometimes there's a line there between like it can do that and not really be damaging to the instrument, But if you let it go too far, your top can explode on that thing. You can have cracks show up and all kinds of problems. So we always want to try to keep our humidity in check to minimize those kinds of things.
And the humidity is also going to affect your neck too.
It will in relation. Yeah, it's all in relation. Like everything is angles. It affects the neck less because it's a solid piece of wood with another piece of wood glued onto it, and many of them have truss rod reinforcements that might have a little tension on them. So the main part of the mechanical relationship is going to be the top moving up and down. But in relation to the neck, it will have some effect. To the point, even when they get really dry, I don't know if you've ever felt your frets will get sharp.
Exactly.
Because that fingerboard will shrink a little bit.
Yeah. And your fretboard is not shrinking, so you'll have little ends sticking out of your fretboard, and you can feel them.
Yeah.
During the wintertime, summertime, they go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now removing environmental factors, how can we tell if a guitar has a buzz that's being caused structurally versus maybe technique? I know it may help to have a friend play it too, right?
Yeah, like a good discerning player, someone who's got good technique and whatnot. But
because you mentioned Tony's guitar, once I had an opportunity to play one of his Santa Cruzes that he had toured with, and it was on consignment at a store. I think it's been sold several times, that very one.
Yeah.
But I got to play it, same type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew what to expect. I'd always heard, but it was tough for me to get anything out of it, get anything big out of it without it buzzing.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that comes down to a personal approach. And I've even set up many guitars for great players. Like some of my favorite players in the world, I've had the privilege of setting a guitar up for them in the past. And what I found interesting was several of those guys, what they'll tell you on the setup, you talk to them, you're like, okay, how do you like them to play? What do you want to feel like? Do you have measurements that you go by usually? And several of these guys would tell me kind of the same thing in different words. They would say, well, I want it just low enough that if I lean into a G run, I want it to rattle. They actually want it to. So that's another, maybe an interesting jumping off point there is buzz or string noise artifacts, if you want to call them that in kind of a technical sense, are they always a negative thing? Are they always bad? Right. Because the philosophy with these guys is, I'm on stage, right? Or I'm recording, or I'm in a professional situation like they were. And if I lean in to a monstrous G run and I'm just being blended through the microphone, the audio equipment like everyone else does, how are people going to know that I'm really leaning into it if there's not a little bit of an artifact? Like I want it to go gown, I want it to have that, I want it to sound mean or ticked off. You think of like a bee being ticked off, you have a little sizzle to it.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people, and you hear that in Tony's guitar, whenever he goes into a big G run, you hear that artifact.
At the very end.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's kind of like a little bit of natural feedback, like you get distortion on an amp.
Yeah.
And so some people not only, it's there. And this guitar is set up well. Like
we grabbed this one because it was buzz free, but if
you wanted to, because what's the alternative? The alternative is the action's so high, because I'll level with you, and I'm sure you know this. You have to have a pretty high action to have absolutely no buzzing anywhere if you're going to play it that hard.
Right.
Like you have to get the strings where they're stiff, and if that's what your goal, if that's your goal, whenever you're on stage or whatever, and you lean into that big Uncle Pen G run, in the gap of the song, it's just going to sound like a clean G run.
Right.
But the guitar is going to be really hard to play too, by comparison.
Especially up here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one aspect to it. Is buzzing bad objectively? No. Sometimes it's a useful tool to have that at your disposal. And I personally am in that camp. I prefer that myself.
Yeah. Backing up a little bit, because we're getting into some more advanced discussion with buzzes, I think. But if somebody has a guitar and it's buzzing and they're wondering why or how to alleviate it, one of the basic questions you can ask is, what kind of strings do I have on it? And if you have light strings on your acoustic guitar, then if you go to a medium, you're probably going to get rid of some of that buzzing, if not all of it. Yep. Because the string tension's greater, and so it's pulling on that neck more.
It creates a little more relief,
more clearance,
and it doesn't oscillate as much.
That's right,
because the tension's higher.
That's right. And when strings get old, they can buzz.
Yeah, because they're getting rusty and crusty and all.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So a lot of times it's not necessarily the guitar setup or the guitar structurally, but
Sure.
just a string issue. So I know if a guitar, I think about it seasonally first, but then if a guitar's buzzing, I'll just go ahead and change strings on it. It's
Right.
amazing how that can kind of, at least that gives you a
That's
clean
the
place
first
to
thing.
start.
Yeah. It's like your computer's not working. They're like, did you unplug it and restart it?
Right,
You know, that's
right.
that's your unplug and restart point on a
Right.
guitar. Change the strings.
Yeah. So before we get into like the setup issue of how to maybe alleviate some of those buzzes, let's talk about the actual playing aspect to it.
Right.
And maybe the auditing of your own technique to see if you're producing the buzz. Of course, I mentioned that you could get somebody else to play it, see if it buzzes for them.
Right.
Right? We've had people come into the store and say, this guitar buzzes, can y'all help me? And we play it and we're like, sorry, there's not a buzz.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And it's funny, sometimes they'll take it back and they can't make it buzz.
Right.
Because in their environment, wherever they were doing whatever they were doing, they made it buzz.
Right.
And then they can't recreate it. There was
Right.
something about it.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's like my car made a funny noise once, but then it's not doing it anymore, right?
Yeah,
So
it was
it's
just frustrating.
Yeah.
We try to understand.
Sure.
We're like, we believe you.
Yeah.
We've been there too.
Yeah.
but we've got to find something objective
right.
to be able to address it if it needs to be addressed.
Sometimes too, if you change your strings and it wasn't buzzing before, but then it does after, that's probably a good indication of one of two things. You either didn't seat a ball end all the way in the bridge, and so that little ball is just a little loose, and there's a certain harmonic resonance that'll cause it to go zzz. And the same thing can happen if you wind this. Have you ever experienced this? If you wind the strings in a way where one string is making contact with another string around a post,
Yeah.
if it's solid contact, it won't do it. But if it's just a little contact, you can get a harmonic resonance buzz there too.
Yep.
So if you change strings, check those two things. That's
Right.
a couple things to look for.
Okay.
But back what you were saying on the playing side of things, and this guitar is our buzzing example, so I might need to switch to one that has. This is a old Martin that needs a neck set, and it's it plays all right, but it's definitely got high action. I mean, we're probably 120 at the 12th fret, and most people would like them around 90 to a tenth of an inch, right?
Okay.
0.9 to 10. But you can hear there just real clear. And I'm like trying to pull tone and play with some power and some snappiness. But I've developed a technique that is a nice kind of, as much as I can, an even right hand. And so how you strike the string will determine the kind of orbit you send the string into. And this was Tony's secret. He talked about this at length once at a little clinic I went to. He would always hit the string with precision. If you hit it, the alternative is if you strike the string in an inward way, like you're
Pushing it down.
right. Like sometimes what I have to do, like you said, I've had this question. It almost comes up weekly, which is hence why we're making the video. This will hopefully be helpful to people. But I'll get an email. This guy's like, "Hey, I bought a guitar at a pawn shop, and I come across your setup videos. The thing's just buzzing. What can I do about it?" And he's like, kind of new, just playing, just learning. I'm like, "Well, from here it's just so hard to tell. Can you send me a video of the problem?" Because you can tell a little more. You can't always tell that way either, but sometimes you can. And what happens a lot, I would say probably at least half, if not more than half of the time, what you see is they're doing something like this.
I think the mic's in the way of that camera.
Is it?
But yeah. But from my view, what we're seeing is...
What I'm doing is I'm pushing in and down
Uh-huh.
against the string.
Yeah,
So
toward the
string,
guitar.
Right. And
You're
it's
scooping it toward the wood.
I'm pushing it down.
Yeah.
Right. And so
So now the string's oscillating
right.
this way instead of this way.
Exactly. Right. And whenever the string goes into orbit this way,
Yep.
it's going to flap on the frets,
Yeah.
And so this guitar has, like I said, up there where I was just doing that at 7th fret, it has action plenty high enough that in normal circumstances it will not buzz. But I can easily. Here, let me do the same thing to that. That guitar's set up great.
Yeah. So here it is with playing it normal. Right. If I change my pick angle.
It's even compounded. A lot of times they'll be up further over the F hole or over the sound hole where there's not as much tension.
Yeah. So again, I'll play it hard going down. I can get a little bit. This one's lower actually than that. But if I turn my pick. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm popping the string off the frets.
Right. And there ain't nothing you can do about that. Like if that's your standard for what a guitar buzz is, you just better get used to a guitar buzzing because they're going to.
Because that's how you're playing it.
Yeah, it'd be like you bought a brand new set of golf clubs and you're out there chopping at the ball like this, wondering why it's not going 300 yards when this guy's using proper technique and it's going 300 yards. You know? It's just, and that I don't mean that to be harsh because people don't know what they don't know. If anything, I want to be, encouraging in the fact that you don't. There's nothing wrong with your instrument if that's what's going on. So relax, you're fine there. And the other thing too is if you ever intend to play anything with any kind of fluidity or speed, that technique is not going to work for you.
Right.
You can't play fast and fluid and clean if you have any kind of ambition to do that. At best, you'll be able to do. As good as you'll ever get. You'll never be able to
flat pick.
Yeah, the flat pick, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
So the question is not, when it comes to your standard for a guitar, the question is not, can I play it in somewhere that will make it buzz?
Yeah.
And if so, there's a problem. The question is, whenever I play it the way I should, does it buzz?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's even the best, most well-meaning players, you're human,
right?
And you might not push that, you might not get the string right in the groove where it goes on occasion, and it might buzz a little. It's like that's just the nature of, or you might be a little farther.
Exactly.
Another one, the last person that came in that was having a similar issue, they were trying to do an A chord, and they just weren't getting the pressure. It was like. But then I was like, okay, if you get up where you go, there's no problem. It's just a matter of, and that sometimes that hurts their feelings. And I try to do it in the most loving way, but it's just, we've got to use what's true here to overcome what's bothering you.
Yeah. A lot of people when they're growing up, learn how to play guitar, usually start with a cheaper guitar. And it's not set up that well. And so you learn to play around the buzzes.
Yeah.
Right? You learn how to mitigate the buzzes on your guitar. And most of the time, that's by just pressing harder sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you carry that.
Or striking lighter. It's a combination of two things. Yeah.
And then you carry that into better setup guitars. And you need to adjust your technique the other way.
Right.
Not press as hard with your fret hand. And you're able to dig in a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. You've got to come back from that direction.
Right. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing is technique wise. Like ask yourself, is this actually a problem, or did I find this buzz because I went looking for a buzz, trying to do everything I could to make it buzz?
Right.
If that's what you did, there's probably not a problem.
Right.
There's probably no issue.
Yeah.
Like if you've just if you discovered it while playing in a very relaxed, natural way. Then maybe it's something to explore as problematic or mechanical. But like, if you found it in search of it, doing everything you could, it's probably not a problem.
Right. And if you speak to the nature of true like structural buzzes that you would actually want to fix.
Sure.
Do you find that they'll just happen at certain places on a neck or a certain string, or are they more universal or less?
Yes, there's this, I have kind of a system for that, and actually it might be good. I probably wouldn't be able to demonstrate it in this video as well as I did. There was one we did a while back where I drew a diagram.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might link that.
We'll link that video.
Yeah, there'll be a linked one. So there are really just three kinds of buzz as far as mechanical buzz that you're looking for. There could be a slot buzz at the nut, which generally happens from if the angle of the nut slot, which is the little bone piece that holds your strings with the little grooves here, if that is kind of oriented this way instead of this way, or if I kind of show you the neck, you want those slots to follow down along this way. If it's the other way, what'll happen is that string will make a gradual departure from the nut instead of a solid connection departure, and that'll cause some buzzing.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I'll generally ask is, where is it buzzing? And if it's, well, when I just play the open string, it doesn't do it when you fret it anywhere. No, it's just the open string. Probably a nut slot issue.
Nut slot. Yeah.
Right. And from there, the other two things it could be is either, this is less common on guitar because you don't really have saddle slots, but on a banjo or mandolin, you could have the same issue there, but on the opposite side. Mm-hmm. And that would be, it doesn't matter what fret you play on, you have that same annoying zzz, sizzle buzz sound all the way up. If that's the case, it's probably a bridge slot issue.
Okay.
And then the third thing is just a clearance buzz, where you just simply don't have string clearance from one fret to the other. And that's what this guitar, we haven't set this up yet, but that's what this guitar has going on. It's just got a simple clearance buzz.
Can you demonstrate that?
Yeah. So this, like we were talking about, there's ranges of what's acceptable, right, and this is beyond that. Like if I play very light even, hear that? And that's even way more annoying than kind of what you were, right, whenever you're doing the real really power dig. Right, mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm barely touching that, as you can.
This is how a lot of guitars come to us in the store.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, we have to set them up before we send them to the customer.
Usually what's causing that, there's a couple things. It's either the neck angle is too bowed over, the relief in the neck, mm-hmm, from the truss rod, or the saddle clearance isn't, or a combination.
Might have to shim that saddle up a little bit.
And those kinds of things are in that video we said we might link to. That's where I really flesh out how you can find that, what it looks like, how you fix it.
Yeah.
Which is, there's diagrams and close-ups and mm-hmm stuff that we wouldn't be able to get into here. But you can hear what's going on with this one. It's like, oh, it's open. Okay, maybe it's the nut. But then it's like,
still buzzing.
Get higher up the neck, it clears. Well, why does it do that? Because the closer I get to here, the more of a steep angle I have to climb.
That's right.
So the
strings
get
more clearance.
So the strings start skipping the next fret. What's happening in these first positions is the angle being flatter that far mm-hmm away. The string doesn't have enough room to climb over the next fret before it starts to rattle.
There's another issue that could be, and that's with an actual fret wire coming loose, coming up. Right.
Yes, and that's a much rarer one, mm-hmm, and those are tricky because sometimes you can't even. It'll just happen in like one spot, and it doesn't sound as much like a buzz as it does like a whiff, like a woofy, a ghost note in some way. It's just like completely hollow, like there's no sustain or substance to it, mm-hmm, and it'll have a little bit of a buzz texture, but it's just a little different. It's like if you took the note and scooped everything good out of it, and then added a little bit of sizzle to it. That's what a loose fret sounds like. Just a little. Whereas this, you still have pretty substantial sound. But yeah, that's a good point. Those are not as common, and they're hard to, with the naked eye, it can even be hard to detect. But how you would find that out if it matches the description of a loose fret, as far as how I described the sound of it just now, if you can push on that fret and see it move at all. Okay. And from here, you will think it's not moving. Like, it's kind of one of those things you have to be like, really zoned in to that distance between the bottom of the fret and the fretboard to see it move at all. So,
wow. Well, I think that pretty much covers it, Jake. So it's best to do a little personal audit. How are you playing it? Get it into another player's hands. Mm-hmm. See if it's buzzing for them too. And then just determining where that buzz lies and if it's acceptable. I mean, if that buzz is only happening when you're being obnoxiously loud with the instrument, you might, might not worry about that buzz.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't. That's the way mine are. You
Yeah.
know? I still like a guitar that plays smooth and easy. Don't get me wrong, but I don't shy a bit away from, if I power stroke a G run, I want it to have a little zing. You know?
Most guitars that have really smooth buttery actions up and down, where you're like, wow, that's so easy to play. Yeah. You're going to make them buzz more easily.
Yeah, especially if you're looking for it. You know?
Yeah. I can really make this one, especially if I tilt that pick down. I can get it to buzz. But I wouldn't change anything with this action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, like I said, the buzz can actually be a useful thing if you're wanting that artifact. Like if I play a certain lick or a G run, or even really hammer a chord, and you want the audience to feel the intensity of that little bit of string rattle adds to it. You know, it's like distortion on electric guitar in a way. And,
that's cool.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about it like that.
Well, and you know, I hadn't either along, you know, in my early days, but when I started doing setup professionally 20 some years ago, over the years, setting up a lot of really nice instruments for like hero level players of mine, they pretty much all had that in common. They wanted it's got to play easy for me to be relaxed and play. And don't be afraid, if you power stroke a G run, it will rattle. And I like that. I've learned to use that to my advantage, you know. And so
that's just part of the collateral of having a great playing guitar.
Right, yeah.
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 Very good. Well, I hope that was helpful for y'all. If you have any questions about that, you can leave them in the comments below wherever you're watching this video, and we'd be honored to take care of you here at the General Store. You can give us a call, 833-BANJO-BEN, or come see us online.
Play nice.
Play nice.